I found out that modding in Stars and Time is not actually that hard, so I went looking around into the files to see what I could mess with. One thing is the regen stat, and you can apparently set it to a negative number. Basically, it's like Pokemon. Walking around will cause me to lose 10% of my health every now and then, and each person's turn, they will also lose 10% of their health. I will constantly be on death's door, and my goal is to beat the king, since the game doesn't exactly have more fights after you do that. Starting off in Dormont, yep, losing health here too. By the way that I applied the negative regen stat was by putting it on all of the memories, so no matter which one I use, I will be taking the damage. After doing my first loot business, I'm run down to 1 health on everyone, which, you know, could be worse. You can't die just from walking around, but like, being at 1 health still sucks for obvious reasons. Going into the house, we get a very easy start. The tutorial enemy quite simply does not attack you, so we are safe there. And also, something that's weird is the tutorial enemy heals everyone to full health after you fight it. There's clearly supposed to be no chances of messing up the tutorial. Don't worry though, we won't have that health for very long considering we are just going to lose it by walking around. Okay, now we do the normal stuff, die to the rock, and can actually do the first floor. Once we enter a real battle, oh gosh. Yeah, our health gets low really easily because this game involves a lot of walking. Then we get our second mandatory death and come back again. Now that we can fully explore the first floor, it's time to initiate my brilliant strategy. Interact with every pillar. This is something that you could easily not know if you didn't go for 100%, but there is a special memory called Memory of Pillars. This makes it so that pillars can sometimes have random items, and my goodness is this helpful. We need to constantly heal, so what's better than having all the healing items we could want? Not to mention the fact that we get pepper, ginger, and thyme juice, which are very helpful for quickly buffing our party. This is not good enough though, because any enemy can easily rock this whole challenge. The mini-boss for the crest was rough, everyone was constantly at low HP, and I had to use a few items just for that, particularly crafted water. I'm not sure you can even get crafted water from pillars, but there is an easy way to get some. And that is looping on the first floor. You see, save points keep track of your item count, even if you backtrack to them. This means that if I start my loop with 2 tonics, I can pick up 2 more, go back to the save point, loop back, and I will start with 4 tonics. And right next to the first save is a room full of the most basic items, minus salty broth. With this, we can definitely stock up on what we need to get around the first floor. I'm also getting big help from Mirabelle's heals, and Bonnie's healing too, although that one is unreliable. I can get Bonnie to be a bit more reliable though. Going into the kitchen, I grab the wok off of the rack, which makes them more likely to use defense buffs. I also thought it would be nice to get the pillow hat on my way to the key, but I was kind of at low health and figured I could just heal by doing a jackpot attack. That went poorly. Wow, yeah, a normal floor 1 enemy killed me. The only other time that has happened to me is when I was trying to get an achievement for that. Anyways, going back in, there is 1 room with salty broth on the first floor, so I dropped by there a fair few times. What this stuff does is basically reset all craft cooldowns, which isn't too important at the moment, but it will be. I run into these little guys and get curb stomped before I can even do anything. Yeah, I really gotta do something about that, but I can't just yet. Fun fact, if you want to avoid enemies, party members block their pathing. I eventually get all the stuff needed to open the first door, and it's boss time. This isn't a bad start at all, because there is a save spot nearby, and those fully heal you. Now normally I would go full aggro whenever I fight, since you know, jackpot attacks deal big damage and also heal you, but I really have to play some good defense here. Literally, I am using a lot of defense buffs. This boss in particular is one that you would usually take your time with anyways, since it becomes immune to all but 1 craft type. Again though, this was fine. It's not a super heavy hitter or anything, so I can get past it for now. Now that we have access to the second floor, I can do a whole lot. Oh, I died again. Okay, going back in, it's time to die on purpose because of key stuff, and I also make some good use of the runaway button on this floor. I know I was talking about having access to a new floor and all, but we have to actually progress further to get any use out of it. So yeah, after a while, it's boss fight time. I'm being careful on these bosses, and the second floor boss doesn't change typing or anything, so it isn't too crazy. Playing defensively can be a bit more of a detriment here though, because these two actually freeze party members in time. Since Mirabelle is constantly losing health, having everyone freeze would make it very easy for her to die, and for me to lose the fight. But yet again, the magic of jackpot attacks, unfreezing my team, and giving very good heals. Now moving on, third floor time. There is a very special room here that will help us out a lot, being the secret room. Yeah, as the name would imply, there is a room that just never comes up in the game, and I don't think that there is anything which alludes to it existing either. More importantly, there are good items in here. Sweet tonics, super sweet tonics, salty broth, and crafted water. This room is amazing because these tonics restore full health, rather than a set amount like the normal ones, and we can loop back around to just get more. I'm not that lame, and I don't like wasting time though, so I just get what I need. In the room connected to the secret room, by the way, there is a book which will help us a lot. This lets us get Memory of First Strike, meaning speed up at the start of battles. Not only does it mean more turns, but also that I can run away from enemies before they attack me. I grab the paper mache hands, because they are like, the best item. After that, we do another mandatory loop because key stuff again. While I'm doing that, I go back to Dormont to touch all the barrels so that I can get Memory of Barrels. This is the same thing as pillars, but I'm not sure if there's actually a difference, but I think that barrels gives you more healing items, and that pillars gives you more juice. So yeah, I go up and do my thing so that we can get the key knife. At this point, by the way, I realize that for some reason, we don't get revived after battles. Normally you would come back with 1 HP after someone faints in a battle, but I guess negative regeneration prevents that from happening. Anyways, disregarding that, boss fight time. The third floor boss was doable. Same strategy as floor 2 really, but honestly, you might consider this easier. Instead of focusing on a specific type, you get to choose which one that you want to make the boss weak to. Also around this point, I started making good use of Siffrin's new move, Buy 1 Get 3. It has a higher crit rate, not too special, but before this challenge, I did realize that I simply cannot read. Apparently Siffrin and Isabeau's turn passing moves increase crit rate too, and I just never saw that in the move description. So if you combine that with an attack buff, boom, you get a super good attack out of Siffrin. So we beat the boss, and I make my way to the king. But yeah, I'm not beating him just yet. His ultimate is just a bit too strong for me to deal with, quite yet, which is why the story prompts you to learn how to deal with that. However, I did make sure not to waste this opportunity, but I will tell you more about that later. So I loop back to Dormont, talk to the librarian, the usual. However, I do something else as well, being talking to the stylish lady. Yep, she is super good to talk to because she gives you Mirabelle's best piece of equipment, the stylish bow. Not only does this increase her speed, but it has regen too. It's, however, not very much. It's 2%, meaning that she still has -8, but still. She also got Memory of Butt Kicking too right before we went to fight the king, and Bonnie has Memory of Snacks. This means Mirabelle will be able to revive a downed teammate once per battle, and Bonnie is more likely to heal us. There is just one more thing that I want though, the key knife. This isn't hard to get at all, it just takes a bit of setup. Since losing to the king the first time, I have been using Memory of Defeat. This means that I get more memories of skirmish, which are used for looping forward in the house, because I am too lazy to keep redoing this whole thing. So yeah, I burned quite a few of those getting the bow and the knife. The knife especially takes a few because if you want to be quick about it, you need to grab the sharpening stone, go to the finished state of floor 3, try sharpening the knife, go back to floor 2, then you go to the wood carving tools, and then you go back to 3, so that you can finally sharpen the knife. It has very good stats though, and it powers everyone up, so we do want this for the king. Now, it's time for our final showdown. I said I'd bring it up before, so I took the precaution to check how close I can get to the king before actually triggering the fight. This means that I can heal right before then, and we start the fight with full HP. I like to start with Knife to meet you, despite it not being too effective, because it has a chance to lower defense. But it did not. I also take advantage of our speed to have Mirabelle buff everyone, and have Odile slow down the king. If I don't slow him down, then that would be pretty bad because we have to put up Adorable Moving Shield to not die. Of course, a good debuff from Isabeau helps too, since Siffrin did not get the defense down on the king. Now we just have to start beating him up. Lots of paper attacks are good, of course. The king's turn does eventually come around though, and his ultimate... yeah, that still does a lot of damage. With us constantly taking damage, we are very near death, but good old jackpots pull through, and we send him into the next phase. Now we are kind of in a rough spot since I used all of my good skills right off the bat, but that is what the salty broth is for. Mirabelle can only use Papercraft via a skill, but the cooldown isn't long enough to be worth using the broth on her. What we want is Odile's Paper Alpha 5, which deals huge damage and has a huge cooldown. Siffrin is also on speed up, turn passing, and item duty. This is also why we got the paper mache gloves, so that Isabeau can do some damage while also racking us up some paper jackpot points. Jackpot attacks are also good because they are AoE, and the king summons tears to help buff him. I try and stay conservative on healing, which I honestly don't know why I was. Force of habit, I guess. I don't like using items. Then we get him into phase 3, where he uses his ultimate skill yet again. I put up the shield, and we make it. I try and keep everything afloat, buffing us all and healing, but I make one mistake. I slow down the king again. You see, once phase 1 passes, if you try and slow him down, he will do a very strong attack, which also undoes the slowness. What's worse is that my defense debuff had just ended, and I never even thought about this. So, he wiped us out all at once. My bad. I'm usually never low enough to die to that, but the poison. Kinda forgot about that. So instead of looping back, I'm just going to load the save since I really don't want to get the key knife again. Instead of taking a chance on RNG, I use Siffrin's turn to throw up some pepper juice, which boosts our attack. This helps the turn economy, since now Mirabelle doesn't need to do that herself. I have her put up an Adorable Moving Shield, slow down the king, and lower his defense, and now we are ready to roll. I turn it up to Odile, and decide to really go at it. I am not going to hold back on items this time. I am spamming this move, having Siffrin use Salty Broths to reset the cooldown for Paper Alpha 5. What I failed to foresee though was that turn passing actually resulted in Odile's shield running out and dying to the king's attack. But it's fine, Mirabelle has her single auto revive anyways. We were all at low health, but also perfectly set up to make our move. With another paper attack, we get the jackpot and heal up. Bonnie really helps by setting up our defense buff, and the king goes into phase 2. With even more broth, of the salty variety, we keep spamming Paper Alpha 5. This move is so good for this fight, really. The tears don't go down to the jackpot attack, so I just have Siffrin use an AoE move, which not only takes out the tears, but lowers the king's attack. Good RNG is quite nice to have every now and then. Now with that out of the way, time to start building the paper points back up, and beat the heck out of him. Of course, this calls for more Odile spamming. This sends the king into phase 3, and the end is in sight. I was in such a good position that I started having what felt like extra turns. I had even used Siffrin's turn to guard. And I, maybe slowed down the king, which might sound bad, but he has to use his next turn for his ultimate anyways, so it's fine. It's fine. Our defense is also up too, but I'm not that careless. So after his ultimate, I make sure that we're all sped up and that I can hit the jackpot before his next turn. And I would say that this was for the heal, but no, we actually beat him. After 5 hours, the king is dead. You could definitely say that I played it a bit risky there at the end, but I mean, if I was in a really bad spot, I could have used the super sweet tonic. It worked out anyways, we did it. This was a really fun first mod to make for the game, and a decent first challenge. If you want to play the mod for yourself, for whatever reason, I will leave the link in the description. And with that all said and done though, thank you to everybody for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye!